On December 18th, 2022, a YouTuber with roughly 37,000 subscribers went live on his channel. He was wearing a Santa hat, playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and chatting casually to his audience about video games, Christmas, and life. It was a 6-hour live stream, nothing out of the ordinary. His subscribers tuned in, the chat was active, and by all appearances, this man was sitting in his home in Northern Ireland, doing exactly what thousands of other content creators do every single night. But this stream was not what it appeared to be, because according to prosecutors, at the very same time this man's face was on screen and his voice was filling the headphones of his viewers, he was somewhere else entirely. He was on a bus, traveling to the home of his pregnant girlfriend, and when he got there, he allegedly stabbed her to death. The stream wasn't live, it had never been live. It was pre-recorded days in advance and scheduled to broadcast automatically, designed from the ground up to serve a single purpose, to give him an alibi for murder. But that's not even the most disturbing part, because buried in this 6-hour fake broadcast, prosecutors say he left something behind. Hidden messages, Easter eggs, deliberate references to the killing that was taking place while the video played. He allegedly turned the YouTube live stream into a confession that nobody could hear until it was far too late. This is the story of VoteSaxon07. To understand what happened on that night in December, we first need to understand who this person was before any of this came to light. Because for over a decade, Stephen McAuliffe was known online by a single name, VoteSaxon07. And to the people who watched him, he was harmless. The username itself is a Doctor Who reference. In Series 3 of the show, the villain, known as the Master, disguises himself as a British politician named Harold Saxon. Vote Saxon was the fictional campaign slogan. The 07 marks the year that storyline aired. McAuliffe launched his YouTube channel on April 5th, 2010, uploading a review of Doctor Who's Sonic Screwdriver toy. From there, his channel grew into a niche but dedicated corner of YouTube, focused primarily on Doctor Who merchandise, prop replicas, and sci-fi collectibles. He opened every single video with the same catchphrase, "Hello viewers," and random Doctor Who fans. He called himself a massive man-child who was just excited about toys. He had a second channel for archived content, a podcast called the Saxon Cast on SoundCloud, and active profiles on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and DeviantArt. By late 2022, his main channel had accumulated roughly 37,000 subscribers and 15 million total views. Not massive numbers, but a real community. Real people who tuned in often. Beyond solo content, McAuliffe collaborated with a friend named Anthony Murney on a fan-made robot fighting show called Ant Wait Anarchy, which ran for 3 series between 2018 and 2022. The two even competed together as Team S.Tech on BBC Two's Robot Wars, Series 9 and 10 with the robot they named Push to Exit. This was a person embedded in British nerd culture, a known face at conventions, a familiar voice in the Doctor Who fandom. And I want to emphasize this because it matters for what comes next. Nothing about this channel, at first glance, would suggest anything was wrong. VoteSaxon07 was a toy reviewer, a hobbyist, a self-described geek living in Lisburn, Northern Ireland. But there's one piece of content from his past that would later take on a very different meaning. In a comedy sketch series he produced for Ant Wait Anarchy's 3rd series, McAuliffe played a character called L. Sanchez, who ran a fictional love advice show. In one episode, the character reads a letter about a woman cheating on her boyfriend. McAuliffe, in character, pulls out a knife and tells the boyfriend to kill her. The video then cuts. At the time, nobody thought twice about it. It was a bit, a joke, dark humor. But after what happened on December 18th, 2022, every single Ant Wait Anarchy video was deleted. Natalie McNally was 32 years old. She was a law graduate who worked for TransLink, the public transport authority in Northern Ireland. She lived alone in a house on Silverwood Green in Lurgan, a town about 25 miles southwest of Belfast. She met Stephen McAuliffe on a dating app, Bumble, in the summer of 2022. His first message to her read, "Hey Nat, it's that robot weirdo from Bumble." By December of that year, Natalie was 15 weeks pregnant. They were expecting a boy. They had already picked out a name, Dean. So here's the question. What happened between a Bumble match in the summer and a murder in December? According to the prosecution, in the days leading up to December 18th, McAuliffe discovered messages on Natalie's phone, WhatsApp conversations between her and an ex-boyfriend that were described in court as sexualized in nature. The prosecution argues this was the trigger. the motive, that McCullough could not handle what he found, and that he began planning what he was going to do. And the digital trail he left behind in those final days is deeply unsettling. His internet search history, as presented at trial, included the following queries. What's more painful, dying by drowning or being burned alive? And also, is it extremely painful to die by gunshot than to be stabbed in the heart? These searches were made in the days before Natalie McNally was killed, and they weren't the only preparation the prosecution alleges took place. On the morning of December 18th, while Natalie was still at McCullough's home in Lisburn, he searched for TransLink bus timetables. Specifically, he looked up routes from Lisburn to Lurgan, her town. At 5:57 p.m. that evening, McCullough sent Natalie what would be his final text message. I'm off the stream the night away. Wish me luck. And she replied, good luck. I might have a peep at your live stream later. Think about that for a moment. She told him she might watch his stream, the same stream that prosecutors say was designed to provide him with an alibi while he traveled to her home and murdered her. At approximately 6 p.m., McCullough's channel began broadcasting a video titled, The Violent Night, Christmas live gaming stream. On screen was McCullough wearing a Santa hat playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City. He told his audience that he was having technical issues with the live chat feature, so he would not be able to respond to comments in real time. He encouraged viewers to chat amongst themselves. He specifically stated, I'm not leaving the house tonight, and he made a point of saying he wouldn't be using his phone. Now, if you're watching this as a viewer, none of that seems strange. Plenty of streamers have technical difficulties. Plenty of them tell their audience they'll be AFK. But the prosecution's case is that every single one of those statements was deliberate. He was setting the stage, telling his audience on camera that he wouldn't be contactable, wouldn't be leaving, wouldn't be doing anything other than sitting in his chair and playing video games for 6 hours. Because he needed them to believe he was home, but he was not. Digital forensics analyst DC Nathan Matthews examined McCullough's computer and testified at trial that the so-called live stream was recorded on December 14th and 15th, 2022, 3 to 4 days before the murder. It was then scheduled to broadcast on December 18th as if it were happening in real time. McCullough's computer showed zero user activity between 6 p.m. on December 18th and 12:05 a.m. on December 19th. Nobody was sitting at that computer. Nobody was playing games. The house, by all digital indicators, was empty. And here's the thing that makes this case unlike anything I've seen before. It wasn't just the absence of activity that told the story, it was what was inside the stream itself. The prosecution spent considerable time at trial walking the jury through specific moments in this 6-hour video. Moments they argue were not accidental, not coincidental, but planted there on purpose by a man who knew exactly what was going to happen while this footage played. At approximately 3 hours into the stream, which would have been around 9 p.m., right around the time that neighbors reported hearing a scream from Natalie's house, McCullough begins playing a GTA Vice City side mission called Waste the Wife. For those unfamiliar with the game, this is an optional mission. You don't have to do it. The objective is to kill a woman named Mrs. Dawson and make her death look like an accident. Prosecutors made a point of this. He chose to play this mission. He chose to play it at this specific point in the recording. A mission about killing a woman, timed to coincide with the murder of a real woman. But it gets worse. At timestamp 3:12:18 in the stream, McCullough says the following on camera. That's what would happen in the real world.
That's what would happen in the real world? Abso-fucking-nately. Abso-fucking-nately.
Abso-fuck-Natalie. There is no character named Natalie in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. There's no reason to say that name during gameplay, and yet, there it is. On camera, McCullough saying the victim's name and smirking directly into the lens. The prosecution pointed to additional moments throughout the stream. At one point while playing, he says, I need to kill this bitch. I need to take her down. During another segment, in a mock accent, he remarks, that's why I like sticking to committing crimes in video games, because I'm a bit of a sadistic bastard, I suppose. Near the estimated time of the murder, a promotional image for the James Bond film, No Time to Die, appears on screen. McCullough would later claim this was an accidental hotkey error. And then there's the line that prosecutors highlighted as perhaps the most cryptic of all. Shortly after saying Natalie's name on camera, McCullough states, in a world of cockroaches, be a spider. The prosecution told the jury that only McCullough knows what that means. Now, I want to be fair here. The defense has categorically denied that any of these moments are deliberate. McCullough's legal team called it just absolutely unfeasible that anyone would plant timed references in a pre-recorded video. They argue these are coincidences pulled from hours and hours of rambling gameplay and commentary, reinterpreted after the fact through the lens of what happened that night. And that's a question the jury will have to answer. Were these the inadvertent ramblings of a man playing video games, or were they something else entirely? Were they taunts? While the stream played to an unsuspecting audience, here's what prosecutors say was actually happening. CCTV footage captured a hooded figure with a scarf covering their face boarding a bus from Dunmurry, a stop roughly 2 miles from McCullough's home, heading to Lurgan at approximately 7:35 p.m. The bus ride took about 35 minutes. During the entire journey, the figure sat completely still. Motionless, prosecutors described the person as moving only to check that their face remained covered. At 8:52 p.m., CCTV shows the same individual entering Natalie McNally's estate, Silverwood Green. At approximately 9:30 p.m., the figure is seen leaving. Neighbors reported hearing a scream from Natalie's home at around 9 p.m. A taxi driver later came forward and told police he picked up a fare from near Natalie's area that night and drove him to a location in McCullough's neighborhood. At a police lineup, the driver identified Stephen McCullough, and McCullough's mobile phone, it showed absolutely no activity between 6 p.m. and 11:16 p.m. Over 5 hours of complete silence from a device that, on any other day, would have been in constant use. The prosecution's argument is straightforward. You cannot use your phone if it isn't with you. He left it behind along with his computer to make it look like he was home. Natalie was not found until the following evening, December 19th, and the person who found her, or who claims to have found her, was Stephen McCullough. He called 999 from her home. On the recording, he is sobbing. "She's cold," he says. "There's blood everywhere." When paramedics arrived, he was performing CPR on her lifeless body. The pathologist who examined Natalie described what happened to her as prolonged assault. She had suffered multiple stab wounds to the neck. There was evidence of manual strangulation, described as compression, suggestive of fingertips grasping. She had sustained at least 5 heavy blows to the head, causing lacerations, facial fractures, and broken bones in her neck. There was no sign of forced entry to her home. Whoever did this to her, she let them in. She knew them. And the baby, Dean, he did not survive. Now here's where this case takes yet another turn, because McCullough was actually arrested that same night. Police brought him in for questioning, but then they let him go. Why? Because of the live stream. Officers saw the footage. They checked the timestamps, and by all appearances, Stephen McCullough had been sitting in his living room playing Grand Theft Auto for 6 straight hours while Natalie was being killed 25 miles away. The stream was his shield, and for a brief window of time, it worked. In the weeks that followed, McCullough remained in contact with Natalie's family. He attended her Christmas Day wake. He spoke with her parents. He grieved alongside them, or at least that's how it appeared. But according to prosecutors, even this was part of the act. They alleged that on one visit to the McNally family home, McCullough secretly left his phone recording. For 40 minutes, it captured audio from inside the house while the family grieved. The prosecution described this as heinous way of interfering with grieving parents. They believed that he was spying on them, listening for any indication that suspicion was turning towards him. Think about the level of calculation that implies. This is not someone who snapped in a moment of rage. If the prosecution is right, this is someone who planned a murder, built a digital alibi, executed the killing, called in his own 999 report to establish himself as the grieving boyfriend, attended the wake, and then bugged the family home to make sure he had not been caught. All while his toy review channel sat dormant, its most recent upload being a 6-hour fake stream with a dead woman's name hidden inside it. The alibi didn't hold for long. Digital forensics investigators pulled apart McCullough's computer and found the evidence that the stream had been pre-recorded. They found the file deletion, they found the scheduling data, they found the gap in activity. On January 31st, 2023, Stephen McCullough was rearrested. On February 2nd, he was formally charged with murder at Lisburn Magistrates Court. His bail was denied 3 times, in February 2023, March 2023, and again in September 2024. He has been held at HMP Magaberry, a high-security prison in Northern Ireland, since the day he was charged. He pleaded not guilty on January 12, 2024. When news of his arrest broke, the internet reacted exactly how you'd expect. His YouTube channel, which had been sitting at roughly 37,000 subscribers, began climbing. Thousands of new subscribers flooded in, driven by morbid curiosity. People wanted to see the stream. They wanted to look for the Easter eggs themselves. They wanted to scrub through 6 hours of footage and find the exact moment he says Natalie's name. As of right now, the channel has approximately 42,000 subscribers, and the Violent Night Christmas live gaming stream has accumulated over 730,000 views, a huge outlier. On Reddit, the case gained traction in communities like r/true crime and r/Northern Ireland. Users dissected the stream, debated the Easter eggs, and discussed the implications of using a YouTube broadcast as an instrument of deception. The Rotten Mango podcast dedicated an entire episode to the case in March 2023, with Natalie's uncle Neal McNally appearing as a guest. A documentary series called Missing Pieces produced an episode titled Virtual Alibi, Unmasking the Deception of VoteSaxon07. French TikTok creators produced multi-part series on the case. Over 117 TikTok posts have been tagged with his username. Some of McCullough's longtime viewers archived his old content. On the Internet Archive, a 1.7 gigabyte collection of the Doctor Who's videos was uploaded in January 2024. The person who uploaded it included a note that read, "I do not condone what this man did, nor do I support him, but this guy's videos, specifically the Doctor Who ones, mean a lot to me since I watched this when I was first getting into Doctor Who in 2017. That's the strange quality of this case. For years, this was just a guy making toy videos, and then one day, he wasn't. The trial of Stephen McCullough began on February 16th, 2026 at Belfast Crown Court before Justice Patrick Kenny. The jury consists of 6 men and 6 women. The prosecution, led by Charles McCraner KC, laid out their case in unsparing terms. They described the killing as planned, calculated, and premeditated. They called McCullough a particularly skillful and manipulative individual who lied and lied again. Lied to Natalie McNally, lied to his friends, lied to her family, lied to the police at the scene. They characterized his 999 call as a sham, a put-on, a performance. CCTV footage was shown to the jury of a figure later that same night throwing items over a hedge beside McCullough's home. The prosecution alleges this was McCullough disposing of evidence after returning from Lurgan. The defense, led by John Kearney, argued the entire case is circumstantial. There is no direct eyewitness who saw McCullough commit the act. There is no DNA linking him to the crime scene. There is no CCTV footage showing him leaving his own house. The defense pointed to Natalie's ex-boyfriend, the one whose messages were found on her phone, and described him as the personification of reasonable doubt and walking, talking reasonable doubt. McCullough did submit a written statement to police in which he admitted that the stream was pre-recorded, but he claimed he was simply drinking alone at home and fell asleep. He said there was nothing sinister about it. He did not take the stand at his own trial. He chose not to testify. On March 18, 2026, the prosecution delivered its closing arguments. The jury was told that McCullough lied, and lied again to every person in his life. On March 19th, the defense made its closing statement, urging the jury to consider alternative suspects and the absence of direct physical evidence. On March 20th, Justice Kenny began his charge to the jury, instructing them to evaluate the different strands of circumstantial evidence and telling them, if you are firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt of the offense charged, you must find him guilty. As of right now, the jury has not returned a verdict. Deliberations are expected to continue this week, and so we sit in this strange, unresolved space. A jury in Belfast is deciding right now whether a man used YouTube as a murder weapon, not in a metaphorical sense, in a very literal, very specific sense, whether he recorded himself playing video games, scheduled the footage to play while he traveled to another city, killed a woman and her unborn child, returned home, deleted that same evidence, and then called 999 the next day, pretending to discover the body. And whether inside that recording he left deliberate references to what he was about to do, his victim's name, a mission about killing a wife, lines about being a sadistic bastard, a cryptic phrase about cockroaches and spiders, all placed at moments that align almost perfectly with the prosecution's timeline of the murder. If those details were intentional, then this isn't just a case about murder, it's a case about someone who turned a confession into entertainment, who embedded the truth in plain sight, knowing that nobody would look for it until it was too late. Someone who treated the killing like a puzzle and his audience like unwitting participants. And even now, more than 3 years later, that stream is still up, still accumulating views, still being scrubbed through by strangers looking for clues. The Santa hat, the smirk, the name. VoteSaxon07's most watched video is no longer a Doctor Who review. It's the night the prosecution says he killed Natalie McNally.